waiting for slides. Oh, great. Hello once again, and I would like to start my talk with the announcement of the event that happened this year. In the middle of summer, we have released an Rgb protocol. And the Rgb protocol is the native smart contract system for Bitcoin and Lightning Network, doesn't requiring a new token or another network or blockchain being created. And we believe that this event may change the way the Bitcoin ecosystem and Lightning Network ecosystem evolves, because Rgb are scalable. They are scalable due to the power of the Lightning Network itself, to its scalability properties, and they are Turing complete. Also, Rgb are privacy-based smart contract using zero-knowledge proofs, meaning that it will allow to bring the privacy and confidentiality in the Bitcoin world to the new level. And why this event is important? Because for last years, many of us has witnessed a sort of Cambrian explosion in the world of DeFi, decentralized finance. And many of us was also surprised because as Bitcoin people, we don't completely understand why it happened and what it means. And the reason of that Cambrian explosion was probably the need for decentralized finance solution in the world. And this need is not only driven by the desire of speculative income. It is also caused by a real legal and legit use cases, like a trading, being able to trade without the need to go to the centralized exchange. Being able to trade in an efficient way when your liquidity is low. To make money on the liquidity as a liquidity provider. To lend for the people who need some money. To let creators earn money and allow legal arbitrage with the different jurisdictions and extra jurisdiction-like organizations called DAO. These are all legit use cases. And that's why we believe that Bitcoin actually needs that kind of DeFi. But on the other hand, the DeFi needs Bitcoin. Because today, DeFi lacks these properties. The properties of scalability, real true censorship resistance, ability to work with the real money, which is Bitcoin and not shitcoins, and maintain its security using proof of work, which is the only secure proof of work is Bitcoin proof of work. So that's why DeFi actually needs Bitcoin, and DeFi without Bitcoin is not a proper DeFi. So can you imagine a world where decentralized protocols created without issuing a new token, where advanced smart contracts are private, scalable, and using Bitcoin as a native currency? They are censorship resistant, and they are able to run decentralized finance protocol without governance issues like in Ethereum and shitcoin world. And they are secured with the same level of efficiency as Bitcoin itself. Well, this is the world we building as a stack of Lightning Network Bitcoin protocols at LNPBP Standards Association. We started building this world 3 years ago. We established this organization which runs in Switzerland, and thankfully for Swiss legal system, we do not require any legal permissions to set up. This is not a foundation. And we already got a huge ecosystem of contributors. And that work over the 3 years resulted in BFI, what we call DeFi on Bitcoin, or Bitcoin finance. It has 3 main cornerstones. Rgb Smart Contracts we released this year. Bifrost, which is an upgrade of the Lightning Network itself, unlocking full potential of smart contracts required to do BFI. And Storm, a data network and data propagation protocol that provides smart contracts with a global state. I will cover them in a few more details on the following slides. First of all, the Rgb Smart Contracts, which I already mentioned. They were created basing on three core properties. First of all, they are off-chain. And that is the reason why they can scale. The way the smart contracts work off-chain is called client-side validation. This idea came first to the Peter Todd in 2016 or even before that, and that's where the evolution of RGB idea started, together with the Giacomo Zucco, who took it as a core concept of creating more advanced and proper system for colored coins on Bitcoin and Lightning Network. And this concept of operating off-chain is a very important concept because it brings at the same time compatibility with the Lightning Network, scalability since you do not keep the data on-chain, and as well privacy because the data are kept, verified, and owned only by the parties of the contract. RGB as well also a Turing-complete contracts, but the Turing completeness is not existing on-chain like in other smart contracts in blockchain world. The Turing completeness operates in the client-side part of the story, while the security of the funds themselves are still secured with Bitcoin script in Bitcoin blockchain and the Lightning Network. Thus, we combine the best of the both worlds. They are also private, and they created with the privacy as a core concept. And as I already mentioned, first of all, it comes from the fact of the client-side validation, where the data are not known to the whole entire world, but also from extensive usage of zero-knowledge bulletproofs and confidential transactions inside the smart contract data. So far, RGB has already become a community and ecosystem. And it started getting traction in the media coverage. It has multiple contributors to the source code base in the organization which are related to the RGB. We already have 3 RGB wallets in the alpha and beta releases coming from different companies and independent developer teams, and 2 developer kits for other wallet developers and exchange integration. We have 4 exchanges planning or announcing integration of RGB, and we have a venture industry doing its first investments into the projects based on RGB. One of the most common questions which we face from the community is the comparison of RGB to eToro, another protocol on Lightning Network announced this year. The difference is quite profound. First of all, RGB is being in development since 2016, while eToro was announced just this year. Also, we are a bit different in terms of funding. But the funny part is that RGB was a cross-industry effort with many independent contributors from the very beginning. And Lightning Labs is having this Taro as internal Lightning Labs project, which was originally named CMAYK. And we've been for 2 years discussing with the Lightning Labs the use of RGB much before this announcement in their products. At a certain point, they stopped these discussions and they released the CMAYK protocol, later renamed to Taro, and fundraised for its development. So was their decision to fork out of RGB and RGB community, which was successful for them in terms of attracting more finance. However, the Taro is a quite reduced concept comparing to RGB. It lacks many properties required to run a Bitcoin finance and proper smart contracts. And at the end of the day, it's just doing tokens on Bitcoin blockchain with a potential future compatibility with Lightning Network. Anyway, so that was the RGB, which is the first cornerstone of DeFi as we try to imagine it. The second part of the story is a Bifrost, an upgrade to the Lightning Network, which we also call Generalized Lightning Network, which supports Taproot and Schnorr, which allows to create channel factories and multi-peer channels, which can be leveraged to construct a new type of DAOs, and also allows to run complex DeFi protocols without increasing the traffic load for existing Lightning routing system. The final third cornerstone is this Storm protocol. We also released the first alpha of it this year in the summer. And you can think about Storm as a torrent system with a search, encryption, messaging, and embedded payments in sets. Or you can think about it as an IPFS or Filecoin without the unnecessary token. It operates completely on Bitcoin and on Lightning Network. It supports messaging, storage, and data querying, providing a new way for Lightning nodes to earn fees and commissions such that a user can plug in existing storage and sell that storage through the Lightning Network and earn more from the network using their decentralized storage services. The DeFi ecosystem today is already born, and it consists to run it, you need to use these products. We released 3 nodes this year, Rgb node, LNP node, and Storm node. Because Rgb node is a node that is necessary to do the client-side validation for Rgb Smart Contracts. LNP node is the Lightning node we've developed, supporting RGB and extensibility with more protocols so that developers of a new layer 3 protocols can just use LNP node and develop new and more extensions without the need for us or anybody in the world to change the code of the node itself. And the Storm node used for decentralized storage and Storm protocol. In the next year, we plan to do also a Bitcoin node, which is Bitcoin indexing node, so it's a replacement for Electrum server, not to Bitcoin core itself. RGB ecosystem will also include first assets which can be used in the decentralized financial contracts, like this RGB wrapped Bitcoin, planned to release later this year. The code name for it is Bitcoin Node, and it is basically an on-chain Bitcoin moved into Rgb Smart Contract, unlocking access to the Turing completeness of that smart contract world, and also significantly increasing the privacy of Bitcoin itself. The most important part of the story of this RGB wrapped Bitcoin is that there is a way of issuing it in a decentralized way, such that there is no central party whose agreement has to be made on issuing of this wrapped Bitcoin. Unfortunately, the other way back will require some form of federation. However, if you'd like to maintain the Bitcoin inside the DeFi ecosystem, you don't need the federation. Also, there are plans to bridge existing stablecoins to RGB network and make them working on top of the Lightning Network, unlocking the speed and power of the Lightning payments together with the properties of stablecoins, which are quite important for merchant and retail. With the Lightning, it will be possible to achieve a Visa or MasterCard level of transaction through output, and at the same time maintain the transactions confidential, unlike when you do it over existing payment network, the information leaks. Finally, there is a set of wallets, and I would like to mention this wallet, which we did together with my team, called My Citadel. It goes in mobile and desktop versions. We have first betas of it released this year. And we were impressed by the amount of attention we got, because maybe The reason why you haven't heard up to date about RGB or about all this stuff I'm describing today is because we have zero marketing budget. We haven't spent even a single penny of any sort of marketing. And all the traction that we got so far is purely community-driven traction arising from the internet and the needs of community. Finally, I would like to say that without your support, this wouldn't be possible. First of all, we would like to thank all the contributors who created and contributed code to the repositories. You will be able to find the source code in these GitHub organizations. Those who are interested, you're always welcome to do your own contribution. But also, we would like to thank all those donors and sponsors who were supporting the project throughout the years. Because, as I said, we don't have any ICO, we don't have any native token or anything of that sort. And the fact that Bitcoin community was able to develop that kind of protocols is a best proof of the supremacy of Bitcoin ecosystem comparing to the other existing shitcoin projects. So thank you for support, and we are looking for more funding and support. You can use this QR code to support the further development of RGB and technologies. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Magazine Analyst Desk, brought to you by BitGo. We are live at Bitcoin Amsterdam, and I'm joined to my left with CK and George McHale. Gentlemen, we just heard a conversation about DeFi. I'd love your initial thoughts, Joe, though, of what emotions does DeFi trigger in you?
Me? Oh, yeah. So, I mean, personally, I think that the entire idea of DeFi is extremely, extremely skeuomorphic. So effectively what that means is that it is copying, pasting the old system onto new rails, almost like taking a calculator and then putting a calculator app on your phone or on your laptop that looks exactly the same. So that's all good and great when it comes to phone applications, but when it comes to trying to build something that's actually Bitcoin native that fits into how Bitcoin's going to change the world of finance, I think that it's a complete miss. So it's interesting to see how Lightning and RGB is potentially paving a new way for Bitcoin to play in that same sphere. But personally, I just think that we are moving into a world where we just think of personal finance, corporate finance, sovereign finance as something very, very different than what it looks like today. And even this idea of like lending and exchanging and trading, like I think that is quickly becoming like not relevant.
But I mean, like the calculator on the computer analogy is interesting because I use my calculator on my computer, right? It's still useful. So does the analogy carry forward in that, or are you saying it's just not innovative? It's just like it's nothing new.
It's not doing anything new. You know, in a world full of like a bunch of shitty assets, and we're trading those shitty assets around, like, okay, fine, whatever, but I just don't think that that's a Bitcoin world. Bitcoin is a world with the perfect asset, and I think that all other assets are going to kind of get challenged and devalued against that. And then how do we operate in a world with a perfect asset?
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense, and I agree. I mean, I think we got to fix the money before we start, like, focusing too much on other things. That's, I mean, when I get triggered by other words like DeFi. But yeah, it's super interesting to see all the different innovations happening.
Absolutely. I mean, look, DeFi seems to be one of the more triggering four-letter words for Bitcoiners all around the world. George, I want you to fill in the blank on this. Bitcoin fixes what?
Bitcoin fixes society, I think, is the thing that comes to mind first and foremost. I mean, once we get back to a level playing field where we're operating on a truth-based system, I think a lot of the social, deficiencies that we've seen in recent years especially start to get healed slowly, right? We begin to build closer bonds. We build real relationships. I mean, this is really what I love about conferences. Like, we're here in Bitcoin Amsterdam. It's a nice, intimate vibe compared to what we're used to at Bitcoin Magazine, doing our flagship event, where there's about 3,000 people here. It's amazing to meet different Bitcoiners in real life, because as soon as you're connecting with Bitcoiners, you can cut through all the BS right away. You're not talking about the weather. You're talking about how do we change the world, right? So Bitcoin fixes human relationships, really.
Guys, everyone tuning in back stateside, I want to give a special shout out to all those who are waking up, tuning in. George, do we have some special message for anyone who wants to be attending Bitcoin 23 in Miami?
Absolutely. Bitcoin 2023 is coming up May 18th, 2023 in Miami. Again, for the next 3 days, we're doing a promotion, 21% off tickets. Just use the code word Amsterdam when you check out, and you'll get 21% off all tickets.
You heard it here first. Use the code Amsterdam, 21% off of Bitcoin 2023 tickets. Guys, we will be back after this speech from Tour de Meester. Like and subscribe down below. We'll be back after this.